This is Gemara Nazir Daf Mem Ches, and we pick it up on Mem Zayin Amud Beis, about 8 lines from the bottom. The first word of line is Chad, as the Gemara says, Minna Hani Mili. We concluded in the previous year learning that if we have a Nazir and the Kohen Gadol walking, and they hit a Meis Mitzvah, a whole lengthy discussion which is the first to become Tamei. We spoke about different combinations of Meshuach Milchama, Meruba Mikadim, Shemen HaMishcha, and yesterday in the previous year we concluded, okay, but now, how do we know if the Nazir himself or the Kohen Gadol himself hit the Meis Mitzvah? It seems to be clear that each one on their own would, yes, become Tamei. Minahani Mili. What is the source that the Nazir or the Kohen Gadol becomes Tamei? Tameis Mitzvah. Titanu Rabbanan, 8 lines from the bottom, says the Gemara Mem Zayin Mabis. Al kol nafshois meis lo yavoi. Says the Torah, he can't come to any dead people. What is the pasuk referring to? This is a pasuk by Kohen Gadol. Iber chaykim. If it's talking about people that he's not related to and it's saying he's not allowed to become tamei to them, why would we need a pasuk? Kal v'chaymeru. It's pashit. Uma koyin head yitshu mitamei lekroivim. Einay mitamei l'rachaykim. A koyin head, which is yes mitamei to relatives, yet is not allowed to be mitamei to non-relatives. Kohen Gadol she'ena mitamei lekroivim. Kohen Gadol is not even allowed to become tamei to the 7 kroivim. Einoi din, is it not a kalvachimer? Is it not pashish? Einu mitamei l'rechaykim, that he's not going to come tamei to rechaykim. So certainly the pasuk of Akol Nafshis Meis Yavai is not talking about unrelated people to Kohen Gadol. Ella, says the Gemara 2 lines from the bottom. Bekrayvim akasim edaber. The pasuk must be referring to the relatives of a Kohen Gadol, and it's teaching me he's not allowed to become tamei. Says the Gemara. So, but the pasuk specifies Ula Aviv, specifies for his father. What does that teach us? Who deina mitame? I'll call nafshes meisli avoy, including the father. But what's the diak? Hamitame ulemeis mitzvah. So we see that the Kohen Gadol cannot become tamei to Kroivim, cannot become tamei to his father, but he's yes allowed to become tamei, and yes has to become tamei, I should say, to a Meis Mitzvah. And with that, we turn over to Mem Ches Amud Aleph, and we continue darshaning these psukim. Because the pasuk didn't only say la'aviv, pasuk also said u'le'imai. So says the Gemara, why did the pasuk have to specify le'imai by a Kohen Gadol? Le'imai l'gzeir shava l'chadir Rabbi. Teaches us l'gzeir shava of Rabbi. If you look at the top Rivan, it quotes the whole pasuk, La'aviv v'lima l'achav l'chaisai lo yitam alahem b'moisav ki nezer ve'chulu. So says the Gemara, the pasuk of le'imai is needed for Gzeir Shava of Rabbi. The Tanyan, if anyone is wondering, 1 second. We just jumped from Kohen Gadol to Nazir. The Gemara is going to point it out in a moment. So correct. So far we have a source that Kohen Gadol comes on to a Meis Mitzvah. Now we're jumping to a pasuk by Nazir that says Li'imai, says the Braisa Rabbi Omer Gabi Nazir. With regard to a Nazir, b'moisam eina mitami, shita of Rebbe that we've had very recently on Mem Gimel. Now we'll understand it a little bit deeper. That a Nazir in its death cannot become tamei. It's not going to be tamei tameis. Avol mitame ul and a gaim l'zivasam. But there's no iser for a Nazir to become tamei for tumas nida and the tumas ziva, and to nigayim to mitzayra. Which, by the way, is an important halacha that we have to realize that as much as a Nazir is not allowed to become tamei, it's dafka meis. He's allowed to become tamei, touch someone who has saras, touch someone who's a zav, and then he'll become tamei. But that's not the issue. The issue is tamei meis. So says the Rebbe that he can become a tamei nigam zivasam. Mainly elabin Nazir. So this pasuk is a Nazir. Bekoyin gadol minayin. But points out the Gemara, as we just said 4 lines down, how do we know that the same thing about a Kohen Gadol, that he's only not allowed to become tamei to meis, but he's less allowed to become tamei to teras and negayim? Amrit, so answers the Gemara, Lo yoimer imay b'kohen gadol. So the pasuk of li'imay should not have been said by kohen gadol. Shein tamid loimar, because we don't need it. Why? Shri kal v'chaymeru. Umay b'makish kohen edim mitamei lachiv. If in a case that a kohen hedjid is allowed to become tamei, lachiv may aviv, his paternal brother. Ein kohen gadol mitame, yet a kohen gadol cannot become tamei to those shevet karayvim. La'aviv. Excuse me. Ein kohen gadol mitame la'aviv. Makom she'ein kohen hadi mitame la'achiv me'imai. The maternal brother. Ein noidin she'ein gadol mitame li'imai. So why did the pasuk have to spell out li'imai by the kohen gadol? So im zachisa me'adin matam aloymar imai. If we can learn it out from a kal v'chaymer, why did the pasuk have to say imai bekoyin gadol? Says the Gemara, you know why? 10 lines down, first one line is mufna. Mufna lahakish l'adon emer gzeira shava. So the imai by the koyin gadol is free, literally, extra, to learn a gzeira shava. Nemar imai bin Nazir, nemar imai ben koyin gadol. We have the same word imai, both by Nazir and by Kohen Gadol, to teach us. Ma ima ya'amar bin Nazir, bin moisamina metamei. It's that you can't become tamei meis to the mother aval metamei, but you could become tameu l'nekayim l'zivasam. You come tamei for Tomas nekayim and saras and zav. Af imay, this actual word imay by kohen gadol, amar kohen gadol, be'emaisa meina metame, ava metam l'negayim l'zivasam. So now we've learned that both a Nazir and a kohen gadol has a din specific not to come tamei to meis, but they could become tamei for tzaras and zava. So that's almost a sidebar. What we are looking to find is the source that a Nazir and a kohen gadol come tamei meis. We found, says the Gemara, 20 lines down, first one line is Zivasan. Ashkechan kohen gadol, Nazir min alan. Where do we know that a Nazir is allowed to become tamei meis for a meis mitzvah? Titanya, we learned in our brayso, kol yemei ziroi lashem, says the pasuk, all the days of Nazir for Hashem. And just to point out that really this was just the end of a brisa. We got into this discussion of Le'imai becoming Tameh for Zav and Mitzayra, as this was the end of the brisa and the psukim by Kohen Gadol and Nazir. Once we brought up the psukim, we tie up loose ends. But now says the Gemara, how do we know a Nazir become Tameh for Tumas Meis? The Tane Kol Yimei Ziroi La Hashem Al Nefesh Meis La Ya'avai, all the days of Nazira of Nefesh Meis, he's not allowed to touch, he's not allowed to become Tameh. From here, what do we learn out? Shamei Ani, from here I learn, Afilu Nefesh Behima B'mashma. From this pasuk, it would seemingly teach me that what? Nefesh Behima, the body of an animal as well. Ke'inyin Shenamar, as it similarly said, Makin Nefesh Behima, as the Torah uses the same word of nefesh by al behema. So therefore, tamaloymar al nefesh meis lo yavai. What's that extra word meis? Benefesh adam akosa midaber. That is specifically by an adam. That's where a Nazir is not allowed to touch an adam who's dead, but a behema would not be a problem. Rabbi Yishmael Omer says, Rabbi Yishmael, you know, tzarich. We don't need to learn this out from a pasuk, 7 lines from the wide lines, the pasuk says, you shall not come, excuse me, lo yavai, says the pasuk, excuse me, you should not come. What's lo yavai? The pasuk is talking about a bia of coming. It's only the tumah that imparts through coming, which is what? Which is tumah meis. So, number one, we learn out that the tumah that we're under discussion of a Nazir is dafka of a human being, of a nefesh meis, which has the dinim of lo yavai, the dinim of tumas oil. Now we continue in the psukim. The pasuk says father and mother. But we're medayik, yes, to be tamei meis mitzvah. So very similar drasha that we have by Kohen Gadol, we now have by Nazir. It says la'aviv v'li'imay, but yes, you come tamei to a meis mitzvah. So ask the Gemara 3 lines on the white lines. Ad shelo yoymar. Before you brought me this pasuk, yesh li bedin. I could have learned out this din that a Nazir is allowed to be tamei. Tameis mitzvah, says the Gemara. I could have learned it out from a kal v'chomer. Oma kohen gadol shekedushas kedushas eilam. A kohen gadol's kedusha for kedushas eilam forever. Yet mitam lemeis mitzvah. Nazir shein kedushas kedusha eilam eino dim shemitam lemeis mitzvah. So says the Gemara, why do I need a pasuk by Nazir? It's pashit. Just like a kohen gadol is tumah forever, is kedusha forever, yet can become tamei tameis mitzvah. Certainly a Nazir. Answers the Gemara on the first white line, loy. And these are this is the weight of Nazir versus Kohen Gadol that we learned yesterday. That by a Kohen Gadol, there's no special carbon on Tumah. So maybe you can't learn out from Kohen Gadol. And therefore you can't necessarily learn out one from the other. And a hoyalu maybe carbon al Tumah, since the Nazir brings a carbon on the Tumah, maybe layatam lemeis mitzvah. I would think that maybe a Nazir cannot become tamei lemeis mitzvah. Tal malaymer, therefore says the Torah lavim layitama, but avol mitzameh lemeis mitzvah. So now we have drasha number 2 that a Nazir cannot be learned out from Kohen Gadol, but a pasuk that a Nazir is mitameh lemeis mitzvah. Says the Gemara, perhaps maybe we should learn a different drasha. Mitameh le'aviv. Maybe we should learn out that that he cannot become tamei for his father or his mother. You know that teaches us maybe there's a special din by a Nazir, and of course whenever we have judges like this we have to wipe away preconceived notions. Says the Gemara, wait, maybe he can't become tamei to aviv and imay, but he could become tamei to shar meisim. Says the Gemara, no way. Amri kal v'chaymer uma koin hedyet. And this really pulls everything full circle. Kohen Hedyet shematamei lekroivin. Kohen Hedyet could become tamei to the 7 close relatives. Yet, eino metamei l'shar meisim. Nazir sheino metamei lekroivin. Additionally, tamei l'shar meisim. So you cannot entertain the possibility that when the pasuk says "L'aviv le'imay" by a Nazir is teaching me that only aviv and imay they can't become tamei, but they could become tamei too. Shar could come tamei to other people, because clearly we would not be able to learn that out as we see a kal v'chomer from Kohen Hedyet. Haman, therefore the Gemara articulates on the top of Memchesim piece. Haman tamaleimer lavil lima leyitamei. So what do we mean lavil lima? Lavil lima udolay mitamei. Avol mitamei hu lemeis mitzvah. And now we have 2 sources: one Kohen Gadol, one Nazir. The yes become tamei to meis mitzvah. Says the Gemara, this whole drasha was built on the premise that la'aviv, that word in the pasuk, is extra. And I could darshan it, la'aviv l'imay, but not tameis mitzvah. Says the Gemara, ad shelo yoymar, before we have this pasuk, yesh li bedin. I could have learned this out from a kal v'chomer. Nemer klolis b'kohen gadol, nemer klolis b'nazir. There are general rules by kohen gadol and by nazir. Ma klolis hamer b'kohen gadol, that what? L'avivenu mitamei. The kohen gadol cannot become tamei to his father, but avol mitamei lemeis mitzvah. Av klolis hamer b'navar l'avivenu mitamei. Avol mitamei lemeis mitzvah. So says the Gemara, wait, maybe the wasik of la'aviv is not necessary at all. You know why? Because I can learn it out. I don't need to learn it out from the pasuk. I can learn it out straight for Kohen Gadol. Now, how is this different from what we saw a moment ago when the Gemara said that the weight of Nazir versus Kohen Gadol shows me we can't learn out one from the other is a difficult point. But let's continue. Says the Gemara, maybe the opposite. Zunemer klaus b'kohen Hedyet, v'nemer klaus b'Nazir. And this is really the answer from before, that we have Kohen Hedyet versus Nazir. That what? 10 lines down, the first line is v'nemer. Ma klala, just like the general rules of Amr. Ha'amurais b'kohen Hedyet mitam elaviv. They could be yes to come tamei to his father. Av klaus hamas b'Nazir mitam elaviv. Tam elaymar. Lav l'ima le'yitamei halameis mitzvah mitamei. That is the drasha. Says the Gemara, 1 second. But the pasuk of la'aviv is not extra at all, because you need to teach me that he's not allowed to become tamei to his father and all the other close relatives, all the shiva krivim. So if now we see that the pasuk is not extra, how could they be there to teach me for meis mitzvah? Because now we're seeing that we need the pasuk of la'aviv. You're right. You know what the pasuk of la'aviv is? You can't come tamei to the father. That's the extra word. So we're changing now. What's the source? What's the mekar that a Nazir could become tamei to meis mitzvah? Is not from la'aviv, because we need that for the pasuk itself. It's from la'achiv. Hala meis mitzvah le'tamei ule'imai. And what do we do with the pasuk of imai? This is similar as we saw before by Kohen Gadol. Now we're going to see the same thing by Nazir. Like Zeir Shava, Lechde Rebbe, Ula'chaisa. And what do we do with the pasuk of Achaisa? Titania, Lechdetanya. Titania, La'chaisa, Matam Eloimer. Harishalach, L'shcheres Peschom, L'amalas Benoi. Why did the pasuk La'chaisa to his sister to teach me that if he's going to Shech L'Karban Pesach, and or he's going to give his son a bris milah, and on the way, and he hears that one of his close relatives died, Yachal Yitamei, you would think that he should come tamei to that relative. Amrit lo Yitamei. So therefore, then maybe you shouldn't become tamei. So then you would say, wait, maybe even for a meis mitzvah you should not become tamei. On the way to do Karban Pesach, so now we're seeing not only is there a chiyuv for a Nazir and a Kohen Gadol comes down to meis mitzvah, even on the way to do a Karban Pesach, etc., he has to come tamei to the meis mitzvah. Now we're going to go into Shita of Rav Akiva. Rav Akiva is going to learn the psukim differently, but in anticipation of tomorrow's daf being a very short daf, we're going to leave Rav Akiva, because Rav Akiva is going to go all the way into the next daf. So we'll leave Shitas Rav Akiva for the next year. B'siyata Dishmaya.